Hello, family, friends, and others. It's delightful to be with you today to continue our YouTube series on Africa-centered ancestral healing with the Institute of African-Centered Thought. And this video that's coming up is going to feature Shekhem, known as Ra'un Nefer Amen. He is the founder of the Ancestral Society in New York, and he has grown the organization to be global. So they're global sects of the Ancestral Society in England and all over the world, actually. And Ancestral Society has been around for almost 50 years now. So it's a pleasure for us to have him come and speak to us from the position of Kemet, where everything started at. And he is a really profound individual. And the name Shekhem, or Shekhem, as he's referred to, means King of Kings. As we continue this series on our profound speakers, showcasing our conferences and our upcoming presentations that will be going on in June and September. When you see the next video, you will have a better idea of the controversy between Egyptians being Black or not. Even though he does not speak to a racial construct, but Kemet is part of the Nubian and Kushite kingdoms. It also is a place where the 25th dynasty ran of the Black pharaohs. And the question becomes, why is it even a question that pharaohs were Black in Kemet? The name Kush itself is burnt people. So when it was infiltrated by the Romans and the Greeks, they borrowed the names of the, what you call netters, which would be like Ase and Aset, you know, as Osiris and Isis, and renamed them, and then Greece named them their Greek gods. However, the Greeks went to Egypt as is Egypt, but it's really Kemet to study the mystery at the mystery schools. And this is where this information came from. So you can see in the translation of information how it has got distorted again and misinformed people of the real history of Egypt. So contrary to what has been said by Arab scholars and some European scholars that Egypt is not Black, and recently they banned Kevin Hart from coming there because he made that statement that was the land of his ancestors, which he is correct. And we're not talking in a family lineage, but we're talking on a historical basis because everything came from Egypt or Kemet. That's where it began at some point of existence. And that's what's referred to as Lucy in the bones, Lucy's bones that were discovered in a part of Ethiopia. And I just want to say this again to reiterate that that whole mass of land was broken up and pieces of it floated to different parts of the ocean, and Africans were on those lands so you will see traces far back as Runoko Rashidi talked about the African presence in China, and you will see it in India, and you will see it in Japan, and you will see it in Mexico, South America, and it goes far back. So the question again becomes, as we are striving towards the elevation of our consciousness and bringing together a oneness of humanity and healing, we have to be honest. This 2024, as my daughter say, is a time of the real awakening. It is a time of truth. We are our ancestors. The knowledge never dies. it just continues to move forward. Another person that is confirmed this information was Shekhem. He was an anthropologist, and they disregarded his work because he was black. He was from Senegal. And now they're beginning to look at his work. And then there's the Italian scholar, Martin Bernal, who wrote The Black Athena. So it's like anyone who has challenged the belief that the ancient Egyptians were not black, now they have to cover it up. It's so many different stories. Richard Pryor tells the story of when he was doing a film and he went into the pyramids and saw the black paintings on the wall, and the excuses they did, well, they shut the film down because they didn't want the information getting out. Why? It's a spiritual warfare. Take that for what it's worth in your life, however you look at it. It's a spiritual warfare. We have three aspects to our being, which is mental, physical, and spiritual. Why is it a spiritual warfare? Well, we can go on with conjecture as to why, but the bottom line is, you know in here when you're making a right decision and you're making a decision that is not correct. And anytime a group of any people conquers a land, they put their name on it and you dance to their tune. So why is it that the history has been so misconstrued? I mean, from every system that we look at, education, medicine, all of that came out of Kemet, but it has not been looked at or viewed or given its right due. And before I conclude and introduce you again to Shekhem, I would like to say that on Saturday, June 8th, at Evergreen College, Dr. Darif Jameson, and you may look at our videos, he's on one of them, he's a psychologist, we will be addressing what is African-centered thought and its relation to mental health, and looking at some disorders, looking at AKA, which is African-centered ancestral healing, and this lecture presentation is the first of a 4-part program that he's going to teach. It is for social workers, mental health practitioners, community leaders, teachers, and anyone in the social sciences that would like to enhance their programs. It's about learning who you are, to identify with who you are in order to know what your purpose is in life. You can go to our website at www.IACTNowSeattle.com. And before I forget, because I always do, if you like us, subscribe, hit like, and we will look forward to seeing you there. Tickets will be on sale Sunday, May 19th on Eventbrite. It is going to be a sliding scale as well. Evergreen students they can get a free ticket because it is being co-sponsored with Evergreen College in Tacoma. So hopefully to see you there. Without further ado, again, please enjoy Shekhem. Thank you and have a blessed evening.
So I want to begin the lecture part with a question. Need help? I need your help. There's a plane that's broken. And they call upon somebody who says he's an expert on fixing planes, and after your inquiry, you find that the person knows nothing about the blueprint of the plane or of planes, does not know all the framework of the whole and the parts and how they work together to make that plane fly. And the guy says to you, I have fixed this plane. I would like to know from you, would you travel in this plane? Thank you for helping me out with that, because, you know, there are people who, when you look at them, their life is a mess. But they're charging you money to counsel you. I see this all over the place. I'm not going to tell you what these people call themselves, what their career title is, whatever. You figure it for yourself.
Sure.
Kemet. And by the way here, right, you know, it's not Kemet, okay, just Kemet. And the reason that I am correcting the name of our ancient land, our ancestral land, because the name Kemet limits your ability to fully explore. You see that the places that are storing our knowledge. For example, Kam, right? In the Kemetic language, means black. It means black. The hieroglyph for Kam is the scale of a crocodile, which is shining black. So there's a mention of blackness. So black that you shine, you know, bluish. You see that? The Kemetic man and woman call themselves Kam-O. O, the root O, you add a NK to it and you get Ong. Come to India, you get Ong. Okay? Kam-O, not Kam-O. Kam-O. The importance of Kam is because in the Hebraic teachings, you see, one of the sons of Noah was, they say, Ham, right? But when you go into the script of the Hebrew people, you find that it is written with a ket, not a he. So it is not Ham, but Ham. You see that? And Ham was the black son of Noah. Yep. Please, you know, one letter can keep you from knowing where to go to explore your heritage. If you want to get into this ancestral healing, you have to know where the truths are hidden, or where the truths are spread all over the world. You see that? Because once you know that Ham is really Ham, and that his grandson, Canaan, was sentenced and doomed to be the servant of Shem and Japheth, then you will understand where the ratification for the enslavement of black people, how deep it goes. It's right there in the Old Testament. You see that? Because that book was just not simply a religious book, it was also a constitution, the law book of the Hebrew people. So this authorization and sanctification for the enslavement of black people is encoded in the Old Testament. But it is hidden from you because you think that Canaan, the grandson of Ham. But let's not focus on that. That's history. Important. I'd rather deal with the spirituality, which is what became the business of healing ourselves. There's no statement in the I Ching that, you know, you don't need to know, you see, the underpinnings of a process to benefit from it. You see that? So, why did the Kamo, the Egyptian people, the pyramid builders, why did they build a vast, magnificent civilization with writing and mathematics and architecture and science? You see that in spirituality, long before anybody else in this world. You see that? Longer than Sumeria, that they're trying to make Sumeria now the cradle of civilization. Go back and, you know, study the sociology and what did they write about, and their science and technology, and you're going to find that it pales in comparison. And ain't nobody going, when you go, there were never any, great antiquities of Iraq, which is Sumeria, don't even come close. You see that? You see, the Westermen say that this is a Judeo-Christian, Greco civilization. They don't say Sumerians. But we know that the Greeks were 500 years in Egypt, getting educated. You see that? The Romans were there also. The Arabs, are still there. And that's where they all got this civilization from. These are facts. And if you don't know about that, read my book, Not Out of Greece, The Origin of Western Civilization. These are factual, evidenced, realities. But how and why was Kemet able to create such a magnificent civilization long before anybody else, and also were able to codify so that it is still available and alive today? 6,000 years of history. You see that? Okay? And it would be much longer than that if they stopped playing games and they, decode, the ancient teachings of Ethiopia. You see that? All right? And of Zimbabwe. Because the records are still over there. I have a student in South Africa, in Azania right now, who went and stayed with the Ngomas to be initiated so that he can restore the relationship with the Bantu cosmogony with the Kemetic and Yoruba cosmogonies. You see that? Because what our psychologists, our philosophers, and our doctors need is a truly African-based behavioral science. You notice I didn't say psychology, I said behavioral science. The reason that the ancient Egyptians, they come all, were able to forge ahead is they didn't have any mamas and papas to teach them civilization. They came up with it themselves. You see, direct guidance from God. And when you look into the Kemetic teachings, you find that one of the most important things they have, if you go back to the first spiritual book ever written, which is the Pyramid of Ani, it celebrates the Pop Neferu, which becomes, the tree of life in Hebraic and Christian teachings. And if you want to know how important the tree is, you find that it was mentioned once in the Hebrew Testament, in the Old Testament. There were two trees in the garden, and the tree that was forbidden to Adam and Eve was the tree of life. The other tree, the knowledge of good and evil, they ate of it against God's commands and were ostracized. They were pushed out through the northern gate. They were sent to the north. You see that? And the cherubims with swords, flaming swords, kept them from coming back. Why? So they will not put their hands on the tree of life. So there are certain major civilizations who did not get direct access to the Parliamentary or the tree of life. That's why they're deficient in the knowledge. You see that? The tree of life comes up again in the New Testament, in the book of Revelations, where at the end of days, you see that when all that is left is the New Jerusalem, there will be a river in which flows the waters of life. And on the banks of this river, there is a tree of life, the leaves of which will serve as medicine and healing for the people, and the fruits will be the food for nations. And on the other bank is the good shepherd. You see that? Okay? And we must remember that one of the symbols, or the two symbols of Osiris, is the shepherd crook. So even though the Bible speaks to Jesus as the shepherd, it is also spoken to of Osir, who is the Christ in Kemetic tradition that was appended to the name, the Osir appended to the name of the man and woman that realized the divinity in their lifetime. Because Jesus was not always the Christ. That came at a certain part in his ministry. You see that? But we'll talk more about it today. So getting back to this opening question about you traveling in a plane that was fixed by somebody who did not know the blueprint and doesn't know the parts and how they work together, you see, and in your mother way, you say, I'm not down with that. I walk. I swim across the ocean. You see that? When the Kemetic people, embark on this civilization, they started off with the knowledge of the framework and the blueprint, of creation, and the blueprint and the framework of man's being. You see that? Okay? They knew that man was composed of 5 essential, agents. One is the self. That's who you are. And the thing about Kemetic spirituality is that it enables you to experience every part of the so-called theory and test it and experience the benefit. So you see, people can talk about behavior and science and changing it, and it's all of these concepts together and give you nothing to experience and to work with, experiment with, which is a kind of science, to see if it works or not. So, question. I'm going to ask you a question because I need your answers. I'm not all that smart. I just happen to make sure that I'm in a room full of very brilliant people. Are you conscious? Yes. You are conscious. Very good. Well, consciousness is who you are. It's not something that you have. It is who you are. You are consciousness itself. That's the receptive side of you, because every unit is a dual entity. So the other half of you is the will. You see that? And in the Kemetic tradition, they say the hieroglyph for it is the ebb, the heart. Okay? And it is not your feelings, it's not emotion. The emotional correspondence to the art comes from the Western side. So be careful when you are trying to, reconstruct and reclaim the Kemetic knowledge. Don't mix up Western, definitions and construct for the original. Get to know the original. In the Kemetic tradition, there are 2 words for heart. One is the hat, H-A-T, which is the pat of the Hindus, and the other one is the ebb. The ebb is the spiritual faculty that houses the will. It is your will that is weighed in the scales of Ma'at in the last judgment, which you do nightly every day or after you die. So, consciousness is who and what you are. You see? And to talk spirit, you're going to have to say things that are going to sound kind of funny. Like, I am not conscious, I am consciousness itself. Because if you say, I am conscious, you are, unwittingly creating, an ignorance within you. If you say, I am consciousness, I'm not conscious, I am consciousness. If you see that. And you're going to find out that there are 2 ways of being conscious. It's a consciousness where there are no objects of consciousness. Nothing to cognize. And when you are in that state, the only reality that there is consciousness, conscious of being conscious. Meaning that, you see, when you don't have enough practice, you see, and you're in that state, You think that you are unconscious because you're not used to being conscious of being conscious only because you got so many years and decades and so forth of having some external object to be looking at, to be perceiving. Are you with me?
Yes.
And when you are conscious of being conscious, you see that's what the Hindus call samadhi. Asam prajnata sarvikalpa nirvana, meaning that state of consciousness where there are no thing and no time passage, no objects and no time sequences, because there's nothing to perceive except consciousness being conscious of being conscious. You see that? And in the Kemetic tradition, that is Oser, the conscious state of Oser. You see that? Don't forget that O, that AU. It's the same AU in the radical that is for man and human, that the Egyptian kind of like, not selfishly, but kind of like arrogantly said, well, we are become O, the only ones that deserve to be O. But not everybody needs to get there, because if they don't get there, we're still in trouble. If we elevate everyone in this world, then the world's a free place, it's a clear place. So let's share this with everybody. You see that? Even with the children of the moon, according to Cultivating. You see that? That's the baby that they spoke about earlier that they should not follow. Children of the moon. You see that? So, one part of our being is consciousness, will. You see that? The other part of being is spirit. That's where the order and the regulation, you see, for all your thinking and your emotions and your actions come from. Okay? That's what spirit is. When you study spirituality, you're studying the source of order, harmony, and regulation. You see that? If you ever, this plane here we talk about here, if the mechanism, the software that makes everything works in harmony and orderly and so forth is not working, then you're going to have disorder or illness. Then comes the mind. You see that? And the purpose of the mind is to pass the message and energy from the spirit down into the psyche. You see that? And the psyche is responsible for executing your desires and your intentions. You see that? Meaning that if you say, I am going to be a singer, okay? The psyche is a part of your composition. You say that's going to manifest you as a singer. You see that? How well will it do it? Okay? And will it ever do it? Depends on what message comes from the mind. If the mind has doubts and skeptics, ideas or whatever, and negative ideas, the psyche, will manifest negativity. Okay? But for the mind to be positive and stay positive, it has to get a communication and energy from the spirit. You see that? And this psyche is responsible for executing your intentions and your desires. It also depends on the health of the physical body. Because if you ate too much sugar and too much salt and fried foods and smoke some weed and all of that is going to alter what the psyche is doing. So you have these 5 major components of being that you have to understand each one of them and how they connect to each other and how they serve the self. You see that? So the ancient Egyptians, they had this blueprint, and I'm just giving you like 5% of the blueprint that you need to have in order to fix somebody's life. A blueprint is a document, that identifies the whole and all the parts that contribute to the purpose and function of that whole. So if you start to talk about fixing things and how things are without knowing the trees from the forest, you see that, you will be lost from the very beginning. And this is what a lot of our, behavioral coaches and counselors are doing. They don't have the framework, they don't have the blueprint. They don't have the right forester, so they're lost in the forest. But they can talk to you about this wonderful tree that they saw over there and this wonderful flower there. And they say, well, was it the north, south? And they don't know. They never even sort of ask a question. Anyone knows people who spent $10,000 getting mental, counseling and still didn't get well? Yes, sir. Because the counselor didn't have a blueprint. They don't know all the parts. Your physical body. Physiologists, do they know how many bones there are in the body? Oh, yes, they do. Huh? Physiologists, they know how many bones there are in the body. Okay, they know almost every, in terms of the parts of the body and their function, they know that very well, anatomy and physiology and things of that nature. Right? So the ancient Egyptians knew how many faculties there are in the spirit. The exact number of them. 11 faculties, they call it the 11 spheres of the tree of life. That's what the Hebrews called it. But 1,000 years before the construct tree of life came, the Neteru. The Neteru, that's where the Romans got the word nature, natura, from. You see that? So when we speak of Neteru, we speak about, natural, legitimate constructs of nature that is in charge of, regulating, giving order. It's an orderly expression to your psyche. There's no order in the psyche. The psyche does, following feelings and sensations. When you eat this because you like the texture so creamy, so crunchy, spreadable, incredible. That's psych stuff. Then the spirit sends a message down to the mind and says to you, yes, my beloved, it is inscrutable. Then you are, controlled by the psyche. You see that? Then you get into, well, what I need to do is more positive affirmations. But if you don't know the whole and how the parts work to manifest the purpose of the whole, the affirmations don't work because they were prescribed in the wrong way. Let's talk about how how these faculties are built up. That's a more dynamic picture of it. Several 100 million years ago, you see, the modelings of your behavior were part of the mineral kingdoms. Meaning that all of these neurotransmitters in your brain, the dopamine, and so forth, were brought several 100 million years ago. So right now you have agents several 100 million years ago, messing with you, generating feelings of likes and dislikes and pleasure, and I guess saying that you like it. What you think you like and don't like is nothing else but a chemical, reaction going on within you. Nothing to do with morality, or divine purpose, or what is good and bad for you. It's just chemical, biochemical activity. Serves you well, as long as you don't serve it. Moving up further, a few 100 million years ago, we have a brain called the reptilian brain. It's like the size of a thumb, sits right here in the base of your brain, and that little thumb here, size brain, is responsible for behavior, of Jurassic Park entities. Serpents, reptilians. That's what is called the reptilian brain. Remember the Bible says talk about how the serpent in the garden was the son of the bold of the beast and the source of the downfall of man and things of that nature. But that serpent is still hanging out with you in the base of your brain. You see that? and it was connected to this tree. When you look at your brain, if you check out your brain and your nervous system, you have this part here with, what looks like the brain, looks like a bean sprout with all kind of roots and rootlets coming out of it, correct? Okay? The vagus nerve and all the craniosacral nerves and parts of the brain and so forth. Could they be talking about this tree, in the tree of life? You need to know that answer, because at some point, all that theory that you have been taught has to become a body of actionable prescriptions. You see, that you, without the help of a therapist, can apply. Clear?
Yes.
Yes. So you have this reptilian brain. Okay, if that brain gets the upper hand in you, it makes your psyche, manifest egotistical behavior, selfish behavior. You see that? So you need to know where in your brain, where in the nervous system, certain behaviors have the origin. You see that? Then you have, coming up further up in the evolutionary, journey, you have the mammalian brain. You see that? Or the midbrain. And that is where your survival now depends on, social activity. But that social activity is very limited, it's very tribal. It's not like the entire world. It's like this tribe over here of 10 people, this nuclear family over here of 4 or 5 people or 2 people. You understand that? And by nature, that reptilian brain and that mammalian brain, they work together, totally emotional and sensual, and that mammalian brain is the hub of your fight-flight response. That when you get stuck in it, we call it stress. Stress is a fight-flight freeze response that has its roots in the reptilian, mammalian brains within. They're not different parts of the brain, they're different brains altogether. That way, because you see, the reptiles and the mammals and the hominids, they weren't, manifested at the same time in evolution. The brain, okay, we're getting some interference here. Okay, so you have different brains. Evolution is about the appearance of brains that enable you to survive through more social and learning, through social interactions and learning. A reptile doesn't need to learn how to defend itself. A reptile comes out of the egg, knowing already and fully armed to survive. You see that? There's no room in their brain for learning. There's no space for it. A mammal learns very quickly, but has to be taught. But it's not taught much, and depends on social, the numbers, working cohesively, working together. And then to increase your survivability, you have the intellectual brain and the parietal lobes. You see that? And this intellectual brain, you see that crunches information, verbs and images, okay, to guide your behavior. But unfortunately, it's like a parrot. It, repeats things without really understanding the full meaning of it. You see that? That's why, let's give you one example close to where we live. You say, I love this woman, I love this man. Okay, what do you mean by love? Because people use the word love sometimes for sensual intimacy. I love you, therefore I give you gifts. Promise you the moon. Once you become fully acquainted with the Kemetic tradition, you find that love is giving, seeking nothing in return. Meaning that and that requires what? That requires spirituality. You see, that's a divine act. So if what you call love is not giving, seeking in return, that's a psychological act. It's coming from the lower part of you. You see that? And that's why, you see, the songwriter says a thin line between love and hate.
That's right.
And somebody menaces the other person because they love them and don't want the person to be with somebody else, I will kill you.
Right.
You see,
Great.
what you call the human psyche has no morality, it's amoral. It has nothing in it that speaks to moral behavior. You see, what can they learn? They can learn virtues. You see that? They can learn to live by virtues. And that's the extent of, ancient Greek philosophy, the virtues. But for you to take in certain virtues into your conduct, you will need input from the spirit, something above it. You see that? So if I say to you, you must reciprocate with the enemy, you might need a piece of a man to do that. I don't know about that now, I had a student, I gave them, an ascetic ritual according to the oracle reading, and they came back 2 weeks later and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I said, what's the matter? She said, well, it's making me like the other person, and I don't want to do that. So you got to understand. You see that? The most important thing, about, these structures within you, within your being, self, spirit, mind, psyche, and body, is that you have to cultivate all of them. They each have their own, their own lane in your being, and it has to be clear to you what does what. If I'm cultivating virtues, you see that. What part of these 5 structures am I nurturing? So if you want to do healing by inculcating virtues, you have to know that you're not working with the root, source of order and harmony in that person's life. Because the spirit works through, a set of divine laws. In Neteru, again, Natura, nature, Neteru are the sources of natural law. See, natural laws are not commandments. Natural laws are the expressions of how things, function in the world. Let's say the law of, gravity. You don't need to be giving a commandment. You know better not to step off the roof. Even animals know that. They come and say, no, I'll take the elevator. You see that? The law of thermodynamics, the law of heat. You put yam in the pot and don't turn the stove on, no dinner tonight. You see that? But if you turn the stove on, 1,000 times, you're going to get 1,000 meals of yam. It will cook. Meaning that laws are objective, agencies that are responsible for how things work. And there's no deviation. If there was no such a body of laws in nature, then there could be no harmony, no order, and the world could not function. So the sound begins to go again.
When you keep talking, it kind of goes over it.
Let's see if I'm gonna have to stand very straight here. Beloved, can I do this? Can I do this? I need your help. Thank you. I stay very straight. Wougie, no, I'm going to take it that deep now. So the thing is, there's a part of your brain. You have a brain through which the spirit functions. That's the prefrontal lobe. It's a little thin sheet of tissue in your forehead. You see that? And in ancient Egypt, going back to, when Ethiopia was, commercial partner with the Nile Valley civilization that we call Egypt. You see that? they had a word called Kenti, K-H-E-N-T-T-I, Kenti, which was the ancient name for Oser. And Kenti also meant the forehead. And the importance of the forehead behavior is that, you see, in the New Testament, you see, people ask, well, how will I recognize the Christ when he comes? Because there's so many people, imposters. And the answer was, you will know it by the sign on his forehead. And the B666 has a damaged forehead. So this knowledge that damage in the prefrontal lobe will obstruct, your ability to assimilate spiritual laws and implement them was known all for thousands of years back already. You see that? And this is important to know. You have these 5 structures that you have to nourish and heal if you want to apply the ancient teachings to your wellness. And we're living in a time where people just want to get one of those 5 and run with it. And then they say, oh, it doesn't work. You see what I'm talking about? Yes. In other words, for example, there are foods and herbs and substances that are injurious to the prefrontal lobe. And if you do that, without knowing, it doesn't matter, you will not attain the spiritual results that you're looking for from your breath work and your mantra chanting and all of these things. You have to actually observe the laws of each of these 5 major parts of your being. You see that? And the evolution of the brain doesn't stop at the prefrontal lobe. There are other hidden sources within you that once they are activated, you see, that will bring forth the goal and purpose of civilization. Of evolution, which is the bringing forth of Homo spiritualis. Meaning that the goal of evolution cannot be the human. Now let's stop and think about that. Look at the behavior of this human being right now in the past 1,000 years. All that was wasted people's lives, the lives of young men and young women, and people all over the world with all of these wars. And who's this? The people that are doing this, they're following the human nature. Ain't no devil. It's the human nature. You have to know what the source of disorder is. You see that? If you don't have the regulator, which is what? Spirit. Spiritual work is awakening the faculties of regulation. Regulus means kingship. Right? Regal. Yeah? That's the king and the queen mothers within you right there on your forehead. Learn what drugs and what things that people try to convince you, oh, go ahead and take this and think of nature and it will help you. If that cannabis helps your joint, well, there are other ways of helping your joint without messing with your brain. You get what I'm talking about here? So, you have to get this knowledge, and that's what you will be dealing with when you get into the Kemetic tradition. The objective, you have to learn what is the essence of ancient Egyptian spiritualities, and that is bringing forth the divine woman and the divine man. And once you achieve through initiation, and once you achieve that goal, the title of Oser is appended to your name. So before that, you are, Nefer. You become a divine being, and, at your burial, they ask if there's anybody can bring forth evidence that this person lived or did not live, according to the laws, divine laws. You see that? And if they brought evidence to this, you will then be given the title of an Oser. So that Oser, or that Christ title, it was the property, the birthright of every woman and every man to attain. Not just one man. You see that? Because in between the coming of the one man, people are brutalizing each other and things of nature. And I heard it said that, it's not the objective, but the journey.
That's right.
you spend 10,000 years on a journey and you only enjoy the arrival, and the other, 9,999 days of hell.
Sweet.
You came to this earth to evolve into a divine woman, a divine man. You see that? What does that look like? Let's not deal with poetry. The poetry can come after the understanding of the laws. There are 11 ways of looking as a divine being or fulfilling your divinity. You have 11 faculties in your spirit that will regulate your behavior and manifest your life as a divine being. You see that? There's a part of your spirit called Amen. Right? When that part of the spirit is activated, you will respond peacefully to any and every challenge in your life. If things happen and you're angry and you're afraid and you're upset, it's not because the thing is angering and upsetting and fear and frightful. It's because you did not activate the part of your spirit that will inoculate you against fear. If you cannot, manifest oneness with all aspects of nature and all people because they look different from you, whatever way that they differ, from you. You see that? Okay? It's because you haven't activated those part of your spirit. You see that? You have to have the ability to be one with each other. Okay? Now some people you may not be able to break bread with them, but within your mind and your spirit, you should not view them, in a hostile manner and preclude salvation and redemption. You see that? There's a wisdom faculty called utility, which awakened that part of your spirit, which gave the world science, mathematics, and religion, and literature, and all of these things here. When you activate that part of the spirit, you will be able to go within, meaning to meditation. Just not sitting down quietly meditating, you could get the drums out and dance your way into the inner recesses of your spirit. That's the African way. Okay. Okay. People think, oh, the only way to do it is through meditation. No, that is one way. You can chant your way and dance your way into your psyche. It's happening every day in Africa right now, and the Amerindians and ancient Egypt and things of that nature. Then there's a sacred part of your spirit, which governs your destiny, your destination. You see, when you come back to this earth, you have a place that you're going to, meaning certain lessons that you came to learn, and when you perfect those lessons, then now you are one step away now from, the major experience to achieve your divinity. And that part of the spirit helps you to connect with your destiny. You see that? And that's, every hard lesson in your life, you were destined to go through that because you were shown before you came to earth, you see, what challenges you will have that you agree to, you see, as part of your spiritual growth process. Because you see, why would God, put you in a situation where you're going to have hard lessons? Because before that, God gave you peace. The ability to have peace so you don't suffer. If you achieve the goals of Amen, you will not suffer. You will not experience stress. You see that? Then you have the Ma'at part of your spirit, which is, which takes, which governs the ability to, to harmonize with every people in every situation. You see, where you can benefit from the opposition and they can benefit from you because, you see, we need to learn to agree to disagree. Why should we be the same? We're different, DNAs, different experiences, different points of view. What we need to do is to learn to work together. If I just went to the piano and just play one note or one chord, you will not give me, one of those, what we call the
Grammy.
the Grammy. Bam, 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 bam. Thank you. Do I hear a bravo? You have this heretical faculty within you, part of your spirit. You see, which will, from a spiritual perspective, bring justice in your life, provided you bring justice to others as well. You see that? So you control your karma, you control, the lessons, you see, by giving justice to others. So when something hard is happening to you, look at, at what you did as an individual, or as part of a group to bring spiritual teachings to the world. You see that you're a champion for the divine laws. Because if you are, then God will have to protect you and redeem you. Then we have the Hesaru and the Sebek. Hesaru is your imagination, Sebek is your verbal intellect, and these two work together to seed your psyche. With positive messages, if they are, you see that, so that you can achieve your intentions. Then you have the Osset part of the spirit, which is the psychic control of the brain plasticity. So you can change into whatever you need to change, because you see, failure is when life comes and knocks on your door. Who's there? No, who's there? Yeah, I know. Careful. So who's there? And the answer is, I am Sebek, if you know how to control your thoughts. So, well, no, I'm not good at controlling my thoughts. And the boy says, okay, so now you fail. Suffer the consequences.
Wow.
So you see, you have to be able to change.
Come on now.
Okay, you're given 11 faculties to enable you to change and adapt. Because you see, your biggest experience in life is circled around adaptation. Because you got to survive. You see, the survival of the species is more important than survival of the person. Remember that. All right? Don't get all big-headed and think that if I die, the world will cease to continue. It's the species. Okay, that's why, we're driven to make long before we know what life is about. Because if we learned what life was about before we made, nobody would make.
Whoa. Say that.
Oh yeah, because once you live, past 25 and 30, you're like, well, I know that. Beauty is on the skin deep. You begin to ask the 1,000 questions. But when you're young, so survival of the species requires you to change and adapt. That's what trance does for you. You take, the vision of the new you. You see that? And what you want to achieve in that vision and that mission into trance. That's the Osset faculty within you. You see, are you sick? Well, trance vision, joyful visions of wellness for you. You gotta learn how to script.
Come on.
You gotta learn how to script that meditation. Just don't, do an affirmation that is not based on the laws of behavior. Actually, a lot of affirmations that are in violation of the law of, manifestation. You see that? They put things in indefinite future like, I will be better. Will be. The psyche functions in the eternal realm. You see that? You have to see yourself doing something, not one day doing it.
Come on.
You got to see it in the ever present.
Big difference.
And so on. And the laws of the physical body, Geb, is that if you want to achieve your goals, if you want to optimize the achievement of your goals, learn to eat right, learn to exercise right, learn to take good care of your body, of your mind, your brain, etc., etc. Okay? So these are the things and I'm just giving you a little bird's eye of the different 11 parts of your spirit, and then there are 12 other laws of the psyche. I'm not going to get into that. Okay, the people that preserve, the cosmogony of the Psyche or the Taoist. You see that? We had it in Kemet, but it was burnt up by the Catholics and when they took over, and the Arabs, when they took over Egypt, they burnt our libraries. So we had to go borrow certain information from the Taoists. You see that? So I give thanks every day for their survival and what they have kept in place for the world. You see that? So the framework that gives us the picture of the spirit of who we are, you see that, enable you to craft a proper therapy for yourself. Now I know the blueprint, okay? Don't confuse spiritual work with psychological work. They're two different parts of the spirit, see that, okay? You use psychological work when a person is not mature enough to do spiritual work. You see that? If I do spiritual work and I'm mature enough to process that information, it will take care of the virtues that need to be in the psyche. The psyche will not automatically transfer to the spirit, because it's a spirit to mind to psyche, to physical body. That's the order in which the transmission of knowledge and power goes. You see that? You know. So there is basic ideas on how you become ill. And in this weekend here, we are concerned with the trauma that we have experienced as a people on the hands of racism. Right. When you understand the parts of your being, then you understand that trauma affects the psyche more than anything else. Okay, I can have a severe burn on my hand if I freak out and have this image of long-term and unending disfigurement that makes me don't want to go out into public or whatever. Then I'll have a stress response that in the psyche that's damaging my health. You see that? But I can also remain peaceful and calm. You see that? So the thing is that what we have to understand is that having the spirit that is beyond and above whatever can happen to me in this world. You see that? Okay? I have to understand that I cannot frame my reality in terms of what others do to me. I have to frame my reality in what God has given me to resist and throw away, you see, all things that are potentially harmful to me. If you steal my life savings, I can have a stress response and damage my brain, my liver, my heart, give me cardiovascular disease, give me cancer, etc., etc. But I can also respond with a spiritual affirmation, with a vision of my person bouncing back, with a vision of my person, living divine law, and therefore, returning to my state of wealth. You see that I can respond in that manner. So meaning losing my life, savings was not stressful. It was just an event. Whether I experience stress from it or find a silver lining in the cloud, you see that? Which is under my command, which is under my control. All it depends is for me to learn, to have a good forester to guide me through the forest. You see that? Okay? So this is what we have to understand. You see, that there are no stressors. That's why I wrote about stress-free for life. You see, the people who will like you to believe that there are stressors. No, you have a stress response that is based on your spiritual education or lack of it, based on your diet, your exercise regimen or whatever. If your diet is correct, if your mental diet is correct, and things of that nature, you will be able to maintain your peace. Because that's why God gave you the amend faculty of your spirit. So that that trauma will just simply be a physical pain. You see that? There are people that freak out at the thought of going to the dentist. But then there are people who you can put into hypnotic trance and drilling them out without anesthesia. Okay? And as I said, we have a group of women that are experts in stress, pain-free birth. Do you know that there's a science of helping women to meditation, have babies without all that yelling and screaming? Maybe in the waters, dancing with us, say, oh, time, oh, well, hear me sing. You know, but I'm a pianist. So the thing is, what I want to say to you is, how many of you heard of pain-free birth? 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's a brother saying back there. You heard of it too?
I didn't have it. I'm just saying.
You heard of it? Yeah. But what I want you to understand, when you go to science and you read about plasticity, you have to understand that, you see, a pain response is a reflex because, you know, to protect you. But if you're in an environment where you expect that pain and you're not going to let it go beyond and damage you, then you can reprogram your mind. You see that? To, you know, respond in a pain-free manner during that birth. You see that? And I wrote a book, Stress-Free for Life here, for you to understand that stress is not something that you manage. It's something that you eradicate from your life. You see that? When you are in a stress response mode, it is a part of your nervous system called the parasympathetic that is not kicking in to tone down the sympathetic nervous system that is in hyperdrive. You see that? You know, when you have a fight-flight response to a threat, that is fine. Okay? And then once it's clear to you that the threat is over, the parasympathetic comes and shuts down that hyper state. But the problem is that 4 or 5 times a day, you're having a stress response over things that are not real threats. And that it's the stress response, the fight-flight response was not intended. That fight-flight response in you was programmed about 300 million years ago. When you saw saber-tooth coming, you know, you had a flight response. Not even fight, just flight. But that response doesn't work in your behalf when the so-called threat is that you're losing your car because you can't keep up with the payment. And many of us have a stress response over things that have nothing to do with animal kingdom. There are social challenges. They require philosophy, morality, spirituality. Okay, when that husband spends the money, you know, on gambling again or drinks again, and the woman overspends the money and, you know, overspends the budget on, what is it, shopping? And so on, you know, you have a fight response or a flight one, and let me get out of this marriage, you know. But that's not the part of you that's supposed to act. But that's the part of you that is the first responder to challenges, and that's how stress damages you. There are no such thing as a stressor. You see that? If you are repeating yourself, I'm only human. I can't help it. The job was stressful. You see that you are constantly reinforcing not only the stress triggers within you, you are, you know, strengthening your identification with the human part of you, which is the source of all that is wrong in mankind. And it will counterfeit you in other situations and in other ways. You see that? So, the essence of Kemetic spirituality is becoming a divine being. Why? Because the things, awakening and developing those 11 faculties of spirit will put you beyond stress responses, beyond evil, beyond immorality, beyond all errors that you can make and things of nature. You see that? You will never consciously do wrong to anyone, etc., etc. And then you have access to God's omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience. You see that you can share and partner in God's great powers and things that nature want. Because you see, you've achieved the likeness of God, you've made it real. Because you see, the human being, you see, the purpose of the human being is to become the living temple of God in this world. That is your true purpose. You could be a barber, okay? You could be an accountant, and still be the vessel of God in earth.
That's right.
You see that? So that you have to understand that is your purpose. So make, becoming a divine being. Learn about it. You see that? Okay? Transcend the nice sayings about spirituality and get to the hardcore laws of the spirit. And learn how to manifest them and make it a part of your life. So we are now going to pivot to the meditation, and we're going to start with an invocation. We're going to invoke our ancestors. I am going to call upon, ancestors from ancient Egypt that I know about, and you can reinforce calling upon them as well as ancestors in your life, all auntie and uncle and people who have passed on that made a difference in your life. You see that? My grandfather is one of the reasons why I'm up here and things of that nature. So, so you do this, and then we move into the meditation to awaken the sad part of your being and strengthen it. The libation chant, is Nefer. And then means I yield, I submit. Okay? I submit to you, God, who comes as the 11 parts of my spirit. So this part of the libation is that you're acknowledging the oneness of God acting through the many powers that people call angels or deities or orishas. We are not polytheist people. We are, syntheist. You see that? We are, thinkers in systems. See that the divine world is a system where you have a supreme being that is referred to as Nefer, the Lord of all, acting through, you see, the various spiritual faculties within you, not different deities. These are faculties within you. Supreme being also comes to you as your challenges. You see that? Because your challenges are not just but genuine opportunities for you to nourish your divinity. You see that? For you to, if part of your divinity is oneness with all, you're going to have challenges to be one with somebody that, would rather not be one with. Yeah, so you have to go beyond you just simply, reading it and intellectualizing information. So we say, I surrender, I yield, and then, Itaim, so-and-so, Itaim, that great school teacher that gave me such a hard time. Itaim, that wife, Itaim, that husband that we're now estranged for, because those were challenges, and eventually you will learn to take, those challenges that you responded to, in a Western construct manner, and relive that experience in trance and respond to it, according to a divine being. Were I a divine being, 10 years again, how would I respond to that husband, to that wife that did so-and-so to me? And then sit back and wait for an answer. Might come the same day, it might come a week later, a year later, but it will come. And when it comes in the right time, if you receive it, you'll be much better for it. So let us go now and pour libation, okay? and then we will meditate, and then if there's time, I will take some questions and answers. Why not now? Because some of the answers might come to you during meditation. Can you sing silently with the recording? I say, and let's go. I tell you, Mother, Father God, who comes as the many challenges to my peace. And by responding with peace, I transcend suffering. Thank you, God. Wonderful. Who comes as the many challenges to my oneness with all, that I may touch the lives of others through my inner work, and others will touch my life through their thoughts and feelings of oneness. And it's a right that they put it I yield, I submit to your all-knowingness, your omniscience, by seeking your guidance in all areas of difficulties in life. And let's eradicate sacred. I submit and yield to the destiny that you have placed in my life. The things in my life are not accidents, but part of the divine plan for me to contribute to the divine agenda of bringing forth the divine man, the divine woman on earth. We give thanks for the power of love. We give in return the true manifestation of love. We yield to the law of justice by not seeking vengeance and ill will to the transgressor. We yield to the law that tells us that, hey, we have the freedom to choose what we want to do and what we want to be. But we don't have the right if it's not in harmony with divine law. We yield to the truth that which we envision for ourselves is empowered only by being in harmony with our destiny. We yield to the evidence that our beliefs and opinions must be uplifted by the laws of God, must be in harmony with divine law. We yield to the law of sin, by not etching in stone the way that we find ourselves at any given moment. And we give thanks to the plasticity that enable us to correct all ills and achieve our goals. Itaim Ge, which is the field of our spiritual growth, which is here to serve as a means of us knowing when and where we are fulfilling our divinity and becoming masters of our life on earth. Ita M, the ancestors, Khufu, Khafra, Mengo Ra, Ameshne Pertari, Nefer, hey, these great ancestors of Kemet that made sure that when we came back to this earth, the records that we need to recreate our spiritual life will be available, inscribed in the temples, inscribed in the pyramids, inscribed, hey, in the burial chambers. And we give thanks to those queens and queen mothers and kings of medieval Africa. Hey, Asante, Yasante Wa, hey, and Zinga, hey, Tumfo, Pokuwari, the Sekos. We give thanks to all of them for the great work that they have done in preserving the resistance against our people succumbing to the idea that we came here as slaves. We came here as free kings and queen mothers and priests and priestesses. Hey, and we have overcome. Let me hear you say, we have overcome.
We have overcome.
Say it again.
We have overcome.
Change the words in the chant. We say, the children of today who are observing us live these truths. They're taking it in, saying nothing but taking it in. So let's nourish them the right way, because they are our future. This world that is being damaged belongs to them. We have enjoyed most of it already. And all of the difficult things that are in front of us today to preserve, the health of our environment so that our children can enjoy it one day. It is God coming to us in the guise of these difficulties to see if we can arouse ourselves and step up to the challenge in peace, in love, and harmony with all. It's not about pointing fingers, even though there are those who are maliciously damaging the planet. The intention, the goal, is to fix things. And we can only fix things by downstepping the enmity. Accept.